Hello coders, I hope you are coding well. In the previous video, we created reservation API with DTO and service in our Spring Boot application. And in today's video, we will write the code to call this booking API in our Angular application. So let's get started. So in our Angular application, first of all, we need to create a method in our customer service. So let's open this class, and in this customer service, let's copy this get rooms method and let's paste it here. And after this, we need to update the method name and we will write book room. And after this, we need to update the params of this method, and instead of page number, we will accept booking DTO and the type of this will be any. And after this, we need to update the HTTP method and we will replace this get with the post. And after this, we need to update the URL and we will replace this rooms slash page number with the book. And after this, we need to pass the request body and we will write booking DTO here. And with this, our book room method is completed in customer service. Now let's save this file. And after this, in this booking DTO, we need to send user ID, room ID, check-in date and checkout date. And to get the check-in date and checkout date, we need to create a modal box. And to do this, we will open rooms.component.html file. And at the end of this file, we need to create a modal box. So we will write ng modal tag, and for the title, we will give it as book room. And after this, to hide and show this model, we will give ng visible, and in this we will bind a variable is visible middle. And after this, we need to handle the click events of this model, and on the click of cancel button, we will call a method handle cancel middle, and on the click of OK button, we will call a method handle OK middle. And after this, in this ng model, we will write a tag of ng container, and in this ng container we will write a div tag and we will give it a class of model content. And in this model content, we need to create a control to pick the date, so we will write ng range picker tag, and in this tag we will use ng model and we will bind this with date variable. And after this, we will use the change event of this range picker and we will call a method on change, and in the params we will pass the event. And with this, our HTML code is completed. Now let's save this file and let's open rooms.component.ts file. And in this file, we need to create a variables which we are using for the model, and the first variable will be is visible middle and we will initialize this with the false. And after this, we need to create a variable for the date and we will name this as date, and this should be an array and we will initialize this with empty array. And after this, we need to create the variables to store the check-in and checkout date. So we will create two variables of type date. And after this, to store the selected room ID, we will create a variable and we will name this as ID, and the type of this will be number. And after this, we need to write the implementation of onChange method. So we will create a method and we will name this as onChange. And in the params of this method, we need to accept the selected date and we will name them as result, and the type of this will be date array. And after this, in the body of this method, we will write if condition, and in this we will use a result and we will call a method length, and we will compare this length with 2, and if it is true, then we can update the values of our check-in date and checkout date variables. So in the block of this if condition, we will use this dot check-in date, and after this we will set the value in it by calling result, and after this we will use the index 0. And after the check-in date, we need to set the checkout date, so we will write this dot checkout date is equals to result, and here we will mention the index as 1. And with this, our own change method is completed. Now we need to write the implementation for handle cancel middle. So we will create a method, and in the body of this method we need to write the code to hide our modal box, and to do this we will use this dot is visible middle, and after this we will set the value as false. And with this, our handle cancel middle method is completed. Now we need to write the implementation for handle OK middle, and in the body of this method we need to write the code to construct the request body for the API, and then we will call the book room API. And to do this, first of all, we will create a constant and we will name this as object. And in this object, we need to set the user ID, room ID, check-in date and checkout date. And first of all, we need to set the user ID, and to get the value, we will use user storage service and we will call a method get user ID. And after this, we need to set the room ID, and in this room ID, we will set the value of this dot ID. And after the room ID, we need to set the check-in date and we will set the value as this dot check-in date. And at the end, we need to set the checkout date and we will set the value as this dot checkout date. And with this, our object is completed. Now we need to write the code to call the API. So we will use this dot customer service, and after this we will call a method book room, and in the params of this method we will pass this object, and after this we will subscribe the response and we will name this as res, and we will write an arrow function. And after this, in the case of errors, we will write error function as well. And in the case of error, we will use message service and we will show the error as error.error. And in the case of success, we will again use message service and we will show the message as request submitted for approval. And after this, we need to hide the modal as well. So we will write this dot is visible middle is equals to false. And with this, our handle OK middle method is completed as well. Now we need to create a method to show the modal box on the click of booking icon. So we will create a new method and we will name this as show modal middle. And in the params of this method, we need to accept the selected room ID and we will name this as ID, and the type of this will be number. And in the body of this method, first of all, we need to update the value of this ID, which is the selected room ID. So we will go back to the method and here we will write this dot ID is equals to ID, which is coming from the params. And after this, we need to show the model to get the dates. So we will write this dot is visible middle is equals to true. And with this, our show modal middle method is completed as well. Now we need to call this method from our HTML file. So first let's save this file and let's open rooms.component.html file. And in this file, we will scroll to the top and we need to use this edit button. And after this, we will use the click event of this button and we will call a method show modal middle, and in the params of this method we need to pass the room ID. So we will write room.id. And with this, our HTML code is completed as well. Now let's save this file and let's run our application. And as you can see, we got an error related to ng model, and to fix this error we will open customer module.ts file, and in this file we need to add the import for the forms module. And after this, we will click on quick fix and we will add the import from angular/forms, and after this we will save this file. And as you can see, this time our application got compiled without any errors. Now let's go to the browser and let's test the functionality of booking room. And on the login page of our application, we need to enter the details of customer, and for the email I will give it as root@gmail.com. And after this, for the password I will give it as root, and then I will click on this login button. And as you can see, we got redirected to the customer/rooms page where we can see the rooms. Now let's click on this booking button, and as you can see, we got a model with the title of book room, and in this model we have an input to select the start date and end date, and after this we have cancel and OK buttons. Now let's click on this icon, and after this let's select the start date as 10, and for the end date let's select 13. And after this we will click on this OK button, and as you can see, we got a message request submitted for approval. And after this, let's right click on this page and let's click on inspect, and then we will click on network, and in the network let's click on this book API call, and after this let's click on payload, and as you can see, we are sending the check-in date, checkout date, room date and user ID in the request payload. And after this, let's go to the workbench and let's validate this entry in the database. And in our MySQL workbench, we will open the tables of hotel underscore DB. And after this, we need to open this reservation table data. And as you can see, we got one reservation with the ID 1 where the check-in date is 10 and the checkout date is 13 and the room ID is 1 and the user ID is 5. And that's it for today's video. In the next video, we will create an API call for the admin to get all the bookings in our Spring Boot application.